Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, September 25th. The new expansion happened yesterday, and frankly, I was just more interested in continuing to make sure my computer was uploading videos and playing Lego Marvel Avengers, which isn't even a really great Lego game, than to make a special episode where we look at the new expansion, considering how it may very well have given me a lot of views, certainly if I had done that, but the way Shadowverse works, the new expansion just is more of a segmented experience. Oops, I'm gonna have to download things. Segmented in the sense that we know that there is an expansion to the expansion card packs that happens because we just saw that with the previous expansion, the Fate's Hand, and we know that you're just going to constantly get new cards. It also is going to be fairly demanding to try and build new rank decks with brand new cards that we don't know how they work. And it's also fairly demanding a game in the sense that you have daily quests, a lot of which I'm just missing and not even logging in to get daily login rewards sometimes, let alone re-rolling the daily quests. Plus, we're in the middle of that arena run too, which I probably missed an arena run. So, yeah, this worse than Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, that this game really does demand daily logins. Okay, so apparently there's some new storyline here in solo mode that we have 32 days to do, and if we do that, we will get Storm over Reveal, Reveal, I guess that's how you pronounce that. So you can get 3 packets for doing that on Miser's story and Selena's story, which they had already kind of teased. 3 ranked matches, 2 ranked matches, 4 ranked matches as Dragoncraft. I don't want to re-roll 4 ranked matches as Runecraft and Dragoncraft, but yeah, that's really what I should re-roll. 30 versus 30. Ranked, unranked arena versus ranked. Let's re-roll that one. Okay, evolve. We'll at least get that much done. So let's just kind of look at everything and make sure we know where we are here. So they expanded this. So now there is Mazer's story and Selena's story, and I'll probably just do all of that off screen. That would be a good thing for me to waste time on, as I potentially am going to run out of hard drive space fairly quickly, and it seems like we'll probably get another Portalcraft character or some other character, maybe not Portalcraft. And then practice-wise, you wouldn't be able to practice against like some of these other characters. It's just the base characters. They could have add practice characters, but I don't see a real reason to. Like there kind of is this situation where you could expand the main story characters and the gameplay and the characters that represent Forestcraft and have them have different AI ideas, but I don't see a reason to do this. So pre-release is underway here, which, what does that really mean? It means you can play rotation pre-release, I guess. So maybe the expansion really hasn't happened. Let's check. We're still at stage 2 on this. If we were to do an open 6, then the question, I suppose, would be, are we at the point where a open 6 would open the new cards? And the answer to that would be here. Let's see, so there are packs, pre-release packs here. So purchase bonus of some sort, which seems to give you Latica and Valdane cards from the previous storylines. I could open 3 of these and 100 of these, but I may not be able to actually play these. But they are what we should open, certainly. So let's just start with that. 100, which would be 10 packs, 10 times. Select how many packs to purchase. Apparently we can only get 30. Alright, well then that solves a big issue. First and foremost, we have a new icon, a little animation. I probably spend too much focus on this, and clearly this expansion is a Wild West gun toting event. Alright, and what have we got? We've got a dragon with a pumpkin in his mouth that kind of looks like a Yoshi, that restores 2 defense to your leader and draws 2 cards. Dragon craft, not too bad. We have Scorching Blast, deal 3 damage to an enemy follower. If you have 2 or any or less cards in your deck, deal 5 damage instead and recover 1 play point. That's Runecraft. We have Spice Shower, deal 2 damage to an enemy, restore 20 defense to your leader. We have Revalian Deputy, which Fanfare summons a Dutiful Steed and draws a card. So what does a Dutiful Steed look like? It's a amulet. During your turn with an allied follower comes into play, give it +1/+1 and banish this amulet. We have a gold card here. That's nice on your first draw. If an allied follower evolves at least 3 times, evolve this follower. Whenever this follower takes damage, if it's not destroyed, gain +1/+1 and fully restores defense up to 10 times per turn. Wow, that seems like a lot for Reinhardt the Deathless. Let's see. That's a Swordcraft card. So that looks like a good card. Here we have a Quixotic Adventurer. Summon a Dutiful Steed. If it's your 5th turn or later, summon a Bullet Bike instead. Let's see what a Bullet Bike looks like. During your turn, whenever an allied follower comes into play, give +2/+0 and rush and then banish this amulet. It's a half car, half Wild West theme. So it's not just the Old West with horses. We have Bandit Raid, summon a thief and give it rush, enhance summon 2 instead. A thief is this, which has Clash of drawing a card. These are all new cards. And they all look interesting, on first glance at least. And then we have Dramatic Retreat, banish an allied follower. I feel like this card might be an old card getting reprinted, but I'm not sure that Shadowverse even does reprints. Put a copy of that follower in your deck and change its cost to 2, then draw 0. Okay, and this is just all decoration in the background. So, the thing here, we've got what looks like a platinum, a platinum, and a platinum, and a gold. That was like a great draw. This is going to take way too long, though, so let's just look at the platinums and the golds, and then move forward. Like Capsule Homunculus seems like it might have been an old card, but these are all brand new, so they are either new art or reprints of old cards. But I think they're all brand new, or at least mostly brand new. And here we're starting to see a repeat with the Pumpkin Dragon. And here we have another Reinhardt of the Deathless. We may very well have not that much of a draw pool, so in opening 30 packs, we may have pretty much everything. Here we have another silver or platinum, which, you know, it's still hard to tell the difference between the silver or platinum card. They don't feel like they are depicted well enough. Like, I think I've just been looking at silver cards, and we haven't gotten any platinum cards, and I imagine there is probably only about 10 platinum cards to collect. We should check that out. In fact, we should look at all the cards that were missing after opening, I guess, 30 packs. I was going to open 100, but I guess maybe the pre-release limits me. So, yeah. It's unlikely, certainly, though, that all of these cards are going to turn into just direct replacements for the cards I already have. The new expansions and collectible card games are not designed to work that way. Okay. And see, it says I've done 10 of 30 packs purchased. And I imagine if you just click the skip button here, it would give you the exact same odds. I don't think you have to flip the cards for the cinematics, but clearly gold ones are still good, and we're not getting a lot of animated ones yet, which I think you start increasing the odds of getting animated cards as you end up having 3 of the non-animated version. I'm not sure that's the case, but it would be nice if that was the case, certainly. That way, if you just keep on opening packs, you're guaranteed to have a full collection eventually of animated cards. Yeah, that's the first platinum one we've gotten. So this is Selena, Sugar Kiss Assassin. Clearly the theme before in the previous expansion was tarot cards. Here they're just throwing out new characters, and I imagine in the story mode you'll interact with some of these characters. Although some of the solo story modes really didn't interact with as many characters that you ended up just seeing on cards anyways. If at least 1 amulet is in play, put a Haven Fire in your hand. If at least 2 are in play, recover 2 play points. If at least 3 are in play, deal 3 damage. If 4 are in play, subtract 4 from the countdown of all allied amulets. So this would be a great card to play if you had a bunch of amulets you needed to reduce the cost of. Haven Fire does does 4 damage to a random enemy follower and 1 damage to the enemy leader. And it gives your leader the effect at the end of your turn if an allied amulet came into play this turn, put a Haven Fire in your hand, so you constantly get more Haven Fires if you're playing for if you're playing an amulet deck. This might also be the point right now at pre-release where the odds are the worst. But being limited to 30, it feels like it's kind of just a no-brainer. You have plenty of gold. There isn't a great argument against it. Here we have Anvilt Judgment's Cannon, which crystallizes with a countdown of 10. At the end of a turn, subtract X from the amulet's countdown. X equals the number of followers with a ward in play. Last ward summons this as an actual character. So that's if you get him on the first turn. Otherwise, you play him on the 7th turn and he has a ward, and when a follower comes into play, it does 4 damage to all enemy followers and 2 damage to an enemy leader. which is definitely a heavy hitter. Let's listen to this.
Gunfire purges all sin.
Yeah, these are straight up English sound effects too. So are we gonna have a mix between English and Japanese, or all?
You look kinda haunted. No, literally.
Are all future expansions just going to have English by default voice acted?
Zing! A crack-a-boom!
Because yeah,
Red burns, but blue is hot.
yeah. From a random sampling there, it does seem like it is all in English. So I don't know why some of the other cards still speak in Japanese, unless those are just really old cards, or they're supposed to be Japanese characters. This looks like a interesting card, and I feel like this exists. This might be a reprint with new art. And at a certain level, there kind of has to be some reprints, because the oldest expansion is getting left behind and removed from rotation. So if there were cards in the oldest expansion that you didn't want to lose, that would make sense. Why am I not getting any pre-release points, though? Let's see, purchase bonuses. If I got 100 points, I'd get a Seer's Orb, and should get all these other things. And then there's 3 days left to pre-release, but seemingly you can't do that. Well, let's just do this again. I don't think I'm wasting my money. I think I'm actually getting the cards. That would be incredibly deceptive if I actually wasn't getting the cards. So maybe you only get pre-release points if you buy the packs with real world money, and that would be a little unfair, but whatever. Put Tyrant's Order in your hand. Summon 2 of Knott's henchmen, then evolve this follower. At the end of your turn, deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower when it's evolved. And this is an animated one, too. Tyrant's Order selects 3 enemy cards in play and destroys all other enemy followers in play. Okay, that would be kind of hard. And Knott's henchman is just this guy that summons a dutiful steed, which and then when it dies, it summons an enemy steel-clad knight. Okay, we also got this. Once each turn, when your follower's attack or defense is increased by effect, deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower and restore 3 defense to your leader. And then here we have Bane. At on each of your turns, when a follower's attack or defense is increased by effect, restore X defense to your leader. X equals the number of a random number between 1 and 6. If Vengeance is activated, X equals 6. And this is a Bloodcraft card. We already had one of those. Yeah, I'm seeing some good cards, but I'm also not paying attention to too many cards. And I'm not really in a position where I can build entire decks just around gold and silver, gold and platinum cards. Strike, restore 2 defense to your leader. Summon a Phoenix Roost when it evolves. Was a Phoenix Roost. Cards on both players cost half, rounded up. Whenever a card is added to a player, its cost drops by half, rounded up. Interesting. And then summon a guild form or guard form golem. If at least 6 allied artifact cards with different names have been destroyed, this magic gains the ability to evolve for 0. When it evolves, it summons a strike form golem. There's a guard form golem. which here's a strike form golem. Okay. We're not getting the best drops ever. Ideally, you'd want just platinum, like animated platinum, and animated platinum, and I imagine there's a limit to this. I imagine you can't get super lucky and end up with 8 animated platinum cards in one pack. But maybe it's more random than it would seem. Here we have Death of the Party, which activates several effects as a Shadowcraft card. Here we have Reggie Peerless Artisan. If Overflow is activated for you, gain Storm. Once each turn, when the follower's attack or defense is increased by effect, gain an empty play point orb. When it evolves, give +1/+1 to all allied followers. Once each turn, when the follower's attack or defense is increased by effect, gain an empty play point orb. There's a lot of cards that are synergizing around this idea of increasing a follower's attack or defense. Not so many cards really that do it, and I've seen that in previous expansions too. So you'd have to work fairly hard to have a lot of assistant cards like this that would increase the attack or defense of a character. That way something like this makes sense. Here we have, I guess, a non-animated version of a Shieldrig. Isis Chill Indrig Gilded Autocrat. At the start of your turn, if at least 20 followers have been destroyed this match, invoke this card. Interesting. Puts a dead to rights in your hand, and when it comes into play, it summons a Magi Train. Dead to rights gives -10 to -0 to a random enemy follower. Banishes an random enemy amulet, and gives the enemy leader an effect at the start of your next turn. Lose 1 play point, so he'll lose 1 play point every turn, and he doesn't lose that effect. So you play this, and after 10 turns he'll have no more play points. He can't even do anything. And here's Magi Train. This follower becomes maneuverable and banishes all other followers, excluding Ice Chill Dreg. What does maneuverable mean? Maneuver. When a follower's with maneuver can't attack, if an allied follower that meets the specified condition comes into play, it will temporarily leave the area, allowing a follower with maneuver to attack. Whenever this follower with maneuver leaves play, the follower maneuvering that card can return to play. Well, that seems complicated, but it seems like, what do they mean? Let's see. Whenever you play a card here that costs 5 play points, this or that card leaves play, and then this one can attack, otherwise it can't attack. That seems complicated. I'd like to see that actually in play and used. Let's see, one more pack, and then we have 3 tickets, so we might as well use the tickets now. There's kind of no reason to sit on it. And then I guess the question, I was going to open 100 and I opened 30, so I guess we probably still should just sit on our gold and spend the rest when pre-release is no longer available. We've unlocked 5 fairly important characters, and these are pre-release bonuses instead of what I guess you would call. Well, I've reached the purchase limit. So I can't even use those 3 tickets. Well, that's some bull, because you can see I could buy some crystals, so I wonder if they would let me buy 100 crystals with real world money and purchase that. And I guess Rebirth of Glory? No, it probably was Steel Rebellion. See, previously you would have these tradables. And you'd have this list, and that's how it's been with every other expansion. This has a purchase bonus, and I don't know if you get 100 points for buying 100 packs, or if you get with crystals, or if you would have gotten 100 points with something else. Let's see. Alternate art versions of Latica, the Stoneclaw, and Valdane, Cursed Shadow. That's what it says the leader cards are. But the pre-purchase bonuses, the purchase bonuses don't make any sense. Why did I not make any progress there? Why is in-game currency not good enough? That seems cheap. Well, anyways, the next thing to do is to look here and we can filter this by the newest expansion, and then we can go into create mode and we can get a general idea of how many cards we didn't get. It's shockingly small number of pages in that there are only 8 pages available right now. And it's not even a full 8 pages. So we need to run a comparison there. And here we have everything or almost everything being marked as new, but some things not being marked as new, which that also is confusing because obviously we haven't had any of these cards before. So the system of whether something is marked as new seems to be broken. Right, let's go ahead and liquefy the extras. We had 1 extra gold and 1 extra silver. Everything else was new, so that gives us a little bit more vials. I could potentially try to craft a bunch of cards, but apparently pre-release cards can't be crafted. So then the next thing to question would be, the previous expansion has how many pages? Well, I guess it's not that much either. There's only 10 pages for the previous expansion also. So they don't try to flood you with a bunch of garbage. And frankly, it's only 10 pages because a lot of animated versions of cards exist. Alright. And so first to try to build a deck now. A rotation deck. Let's just say we were going to edit this deck. Can we put in the newest expansion? Nope, you can't. You can only do up to Fortune. So pre-purchasing those cards really was just so you could look at them, just to get you hyped. You can't build a deck. You could build a pre-release deck and you could play that. Is there a reason to do that though? Let's go back to the missions and double check this. No, there's just story mode. And I don't think they would have thrown in any kind of achievement that was specifically around that. You can kind of see how I'm closing the gap slowly of all achievements. And apparently the battle pass mission is ended and hasn't even started. So I don't know if we're not gonna get another battle pass mission or what. Let's see, as far as leaders, there's nothing new here, and nothing that could be purchased with gold that's different. As far as sleeves, doesn't look like there's anything new here. It seems like they would have mentioned that. As far as items, like you could buy Seer's globes with Seer's shards, which I've never even seen any of those, or vials, which I could do that with vials, I suppose, but that would be a bad choice. Alright, well, and that just puts us back to actually playing the game. It's been 30 minutes to open a bunch of packs, and I don't see any good argument around opening a bunch more packs. We have theoretically 80 more packs that could be opened, and we'll probably open about 50 more when the actual expansion happens. I imagine it's going to happen in a week or so. I imagine they're not going to stretch things out. I'm going to try Rune Craft this time on this random arena challenge. Maybe I can get some lucky victories. There is kind of a lack of hype, I will admit, for a new Shadowverse expansion. I kind of felt the same thing with Hearthstone and Magic Arena, although I was sort of hyped around Magic Arena's expansions. But there's not any advertisements that I saw. I'm not watching like YouTubers talking about Shadowverse all the time, or covering the new things, so there's nobody overhyping me effectively onto the new changes. The maneuverability seems like it might be cool, and some new cards seem like they might be cool, but it doesn't seem like there's a game changer in a card expansion. And almost always in collectible card games, the new expansions aren't game changers. It has to be this very consistent step-by-step iteration with every expansion. And that's something Magic is actually particularly bad about doing, is that they often will not like consider how powerful their new expansion is compared to the previous expansions, to the point where the previous expansions are completely unplayable as soon as the new expansions happen. Or perhaps they consider it and they just don't care. But yeah. In a funny way, if you told me a general description of the anime Trigun, which is a great anime and I would recommend anyone watch it. There was a movie that was made after it, like several years after the anime aired, and that's fairly skippable. Can we spell boost? And we can do this, but I don't know if that is even a spell. We can do these, and that will spell boost these. And then this would do 2 damage to an enemy follower, which is not terrible. But yeah, if you were to describe the environment and the style of the characters of Trigun, it would be described as a Wild West half sci-fi game with cars and vehicles, and it would be very much in the same lines as this expansion, and that really wouldn't interest me. but if you actually have seen Trigun, it's very, very interesting and something that's once again very recommendable. So yeah, I think I'm just not a huge fan of westerns, is what I'm trying to say there. Let's see, that wouldn't really do anything. Do I want to toss this character? Guess not.
Oh, storms. Windy, bendy storms. So, yeah. Anyways, since it's a Friday and there's a small chance I'll have other things I need to deal with today, at any point I might have to pause this stream and mute my mic for maybe several minutes. Love enriches the heart.
Small chance of something like that.
Precipitous, ain't I?
But since we're doing that, since we're streaming, let's go through the news and talk about it and just wrap up. There's not any reason to elongate a Friday stream. Joy Crafter Sammy.
Here we go. Abracadabra.
Interesting. Earthright. Gain X damage to all, deal X damage to all enemies. X equals the follower's attack. Interesting.
But this ends here.
And
Mana, come forth.
do this. And attack there. I don't know why YouTube creators liked a post here where somebody posted, what software would you recommend for recording, editing Sims YouTube videos? That seems like an oddly weird. One of the game developers' personal YouTube not on YouTube, on Twitter, got their Twitter account hacked. Seemingly, it seems a lot of people got their Twitter accounts hacked, and then Twitter said they had resolved the issue, and that they're coming back and going, no, this issue isn't resolved, which inherently that is the danger of saying you resolved an issue, because you almost certainly won't have resolved every person's issue. Alright. I think I have to play this. Nope, I needed to have played that when it was enhanced, and I didn't. And we'll play this instead. And we can destroy an enemy follower if we want.
That's all for this time.
Which will do that.
How could there be a future like this?
I also still feel like the story mode, the actual story of this new expansion, probably is gonna still heavily imply that it is the exact same world at just different times, or and so I wouldn't be surprised if every land they visited has been the exact same planet thousands of years apart. Either that, or there's just having a lot of trouble differentiating the worlds. Well, no, they heavily implied that the nature world was thousands of years in the future of the robot world. Right, can we save this? This is slow. Number of allied amulets in play. Well, whatever.
Behold the true form of this world.
So that guy just spell boosted exactly 0 cards in my deck 9 times. The Tokyo Game Show seems to be either about to happen or is happening, and we're getting little bits of information. I've also gone through every one of the web pages that I use and heavily modified them now so that they turn into easier to read pages and less focused. If anything, the only one I really haven't changed is like this Steam page. You can see there's some things visually that could be distractions that I could get rid of. I don't want to drastically change the Steam pages, but I have made some modifications, certainly to try and eliminate something. And apparently I'm signed out, or the game thinks I signed out. I could easily take out, for instance, this whole bottom part. That way when I scroll down, it stops at whatever the last comment or review would have been said. And I could potentially get rid of some advertisements as far as more like this, but that information is fairly useful, and it's worth mentioning. If you're on the Steam store, then you are effectively shopping, and advertisement is sort of what you want. You want relevant advertising, but you want advertising. See. Do this. I don't think that's gonna do much. I think I'm gonna lose. And see, I don't know who this character is. I kind of wish I did. Rin Tosaka.
Wait, how did I lose?
Yeah, I have no idea what she's from, though. Some anime, clearly, but who knows which. Alright, that's one loss, and we may very well lose a lot. So here we have a game on Steam called The Night, which is $5.99 discounted, English only. It looks to me like it's not polished enough to actually be a game, and calling your game The Night is pretty generic. You do have an animation here that makes it look a lot better than it actually is, but you have an incredibly generic life and stamina bar. And if we look at this developer, this is the only game that they've ever published, and this, by this trailer, looks like something that would have been a AAA game published by a AAA publisher if it was really a game and not just an asset flip. Which I think it's fairly obvious it's an asset flip. And while we are here, I will go ahead and try and get rid of some more stuff. See. Continuously tweaking, continuously improving things as much as I can. Who's this character? Arya. That looks like a different skin. though that I haven't seen. Go ahead and get rid of the footer too. Yeah, that's better. Although, yeah, I'm not sure what else you would really want to get rid of. Like, and that you do run into this problem that you could be horribly mangling a scythe by blocking so many elements in the site. Of course, you can just always reload things and turn off uBlock Origin, and then it will bring everything back. Yeah, I could get rid of these parts, but I actually use those. I could get rid of share embed flag, and that would speed some things up. I could get rid of a lot of these elements too. We could just speed up things because of that. That's a thought. Let's see what that would look like if we chose to get rid of that, and then get rid of that, and then I gotta play, or just in my turn. Get rid of that, and get rid of that. Is there really anything else to hide though? Nope. That's about the only differences I can make, is I can get rid of a couple icons over here, I can get rid of a couple of bars of text over here, and the flagging buttons and things like that. But I can't stretch things to fill up that space, so that will often be an empty space, but sometimes it won't, depending on how many languages are shown. Steam's own website could use some improvement always. But yeah, that's the kind of tweaking that just makes it a better snippet, effectively, of websites, instead of just looking at the entirety of websites. Perhaps at that point you're making an argument. You can make an argument that I am now no longer directly quoting a website by showing a screenshot of it, and then I am instead making more of a composite image or an edited quotation of another website. In a weird way, I'm quoting something. But most of these websites are advertisement ad copy anyways, so they wouldn't have a copyright in the first place. And I don't think anybody's gonna complain. 2 to all followers. Well, I could kill everybody if I do that, so let's do that. Next, we have a game on Steam that came out called Necrosis Reconfiguration, and by the looks of the video, it seems like it is a buggy asset flip first-person shooter.
So many colors of guidance.
Like
I grant you the power of the wind. Guidance breathes through you.
there seems like there's a little bit of Russian text. There doesn't seem like there's a lot of enemies. I hate when I see videos like this and I can't really see what you're shooting even, because they're like so far away or they just don't exist at all. This is $6.99, which is too cheap for a good first-person shooter. It has more than 10 maps, but they're not telling you the exact number. Yeah, we can see a negative review already. Yeah, I think I see enough here to say that this would not be worth playing. There is that game Among Us. I do want to just mention I am aware of it.
Lies, lies.
Personally,
None of this
it
is real.
doesn't look interesting to me. I just raised the cost of those 2 cards. It is definitely, Among Us is definitely one of those games that is for people who have a bunch of friends and good internet that can chat, and then they're potentially ruining their friendships by playing Among Us. But as a person who plays single player or plays online against random people, I think that would be very boring and then very quickly. And the game really just feels like it's a collection of mini games with the twist that there are 2 imposters running around killing people as all the other players are trying to do the mini games and figure out who the killers are. And we've already seen games like that before, or at least modifications of Gary's mod like that. Like those were super popular for many years, where you'd have Gary's mod, find the killer type programs.
Mana, come forth. Sorry.
See, so this is a character that is still speaking Japanese. Let's see. Gematsu has an article here. The Medium story trailer is available, due out for Xbox Series and PC this holiday. This is from Bloober Team, which is, I think, the makers of mostly horror walking sims, if I recall correctly. And you can see Gematsu in particular has also been very much twisted and reduced. And so, yeah, this definitely feels like you'll be playing as a psychic who's gonna see a bunch of weird visions and perhaps 2 realities that jump between the 2 of them. And that might be interesting, but it also might just be kind of more of the same. Let's see. What does this do?
Our emotions have made us stronger. This match is mine.
Hmm.
I'm so sparkly. Yeah.
Trying to win here, but not really going to succeed. At least I'll get the evolution challenge done. There's, I guess, some benefit to that.
Oh, wait. How did I lose?
Let's see. Let's go back and keep on playing. Sorry, I went quiet there. I did find out the secret chatbot audio playback was being blocked by one of my ad blockers, and that's why it wasn't working. Because apparently SoundCloud does need to make some cookies if you're going to play music or pretend like you're playing music. Let's see. Moving on, we have Dragon Quest XI S, Echoes of an Exclusive Age, as a trailer, and its shipments have topped 6 million copies in digital and physical. So yeah, Dragon Quest XI-S, super successful JRPG that most people still probably don't know exists in the West. The PC version also is adding an Epic Games Store release, which it will be interesting, I suppose, to see if the Epic Games Store does try to announce high sales number for a game that was originally released on Steam, I believe, and then gets a later date release on their platform. It seems the mainstream video game media is hyping up the sales and the quality of Hades, and they're making it seem from their perspective, and really they're just putting out their opinions, I think, that Hades did extremely well as a pre-purchase unfinished game available exclusively on the Epic Games Store, and now months later, once version 1.0 is available and it's available on Steam, it still seems to be selling fairly well. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Gothic Cube, which is a side-scroll shooter with gothic horror imagery, and maybe a little bit of puzzling and boss battles, but doesn't look quite good enough to make me want to play a side-scrolling shooter. The stationary images kind of sell me more than the video did, and I was just watching the video. So like you have paintings that are in the way, and you have enemies and bullet hell shooting, and you seem to be able to sometimes go vertically or sometimes go sideways. But yeah, I still don't think I'd want to play this kind of game. It's also English only, and at that price that probably means it's pretty short. What does this one do? This would spellbound a card. That's useless. I give this effect to him, and then 20 turns, potentially I'll win. Let's see. Next, we have a game called La Forêt de Pego, La Vengeance de Dragon, which sounds like a French game and looks like a cell phone game being ported to PC with little chibi CGI characters running around, and I imagine it's just an RPG, although they're calling it a choose your own adventure spelling game. Educational game, you improve your grammatical spelling throughout discovering a heroic fantasy tale. You know what, that kind of sells me more on this game. I'd like to play an educational game that tries to actually be good. So I guess that means you're not actually playing the game, and instead they're just popping up questions about how words are spelled. Unfortunately, English is not supported, so this is $8.99 if you want to learn French for 8-year-olds that you would want to learn French. And even at that, I can't recommend it because there's no guarantee that it's properly training anybody to speak French, or that it even speaks French at all. It could be telling you completely made up French sounding words. So I would need somebody who is a fluent French speaker to play a game like that and give me a recommendation first and foremost. And I still feel like if you're going to learn and try to teach or learn a new language, you need somebody who is willing and capable of giving you a full immersion experience, and will just speak to you in French non-stop. Alright. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. D3 publisher announces a suspense adventure game called Abyss of Sacrifice for the Switch and PC. Here you escape the underground city. I want to hide this little bar, but I can't click on it. It's too small. I'll have to like zoom in later. So yeah, this probably is a suspense visual novel. It's going to be an enhanced version of something that was released in 2010 for the PSP, and maybe it's going to come. It is coming in English, so it might come to the West, but no guarantee there for that. And here you can see some horrific imagery. I'll play the trailer but not show it, just in case there's something that's not YouTube family friendly. Which they made another video, YouTube did, one of the YouTube people, to kind of show, re-explain what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable as far as monetization. And they didn't get into any real detail, but they are singling in on pranks pretty much not being acceptable and monetizable if they're doing any kind of emotional damage whatsoever. So their example is if you got a fake pregnancy test that was positive or negative, how would that cause emotional damage to the person you're pranking? The answer is probably yes, thus not monetizable, which frankly that easily applies to every single prank that could exist.
I've got to win.
One neutral card.
Mana, come forth. No crying. No looking back.
Speaking of psychological emotion, the video, which I would say the animation in the trailer is a little weak, a little soft. Seems like there is 2 or 3 different animators that made it, the trailer. But it did show someone just covered in blood and a character with a gun, so pointing it directly at the screen, so that would be not YouTube family friendly, probably. So good thing I didn't show that.
Life does what I say.
They're also what else were they focusing on? Like something's not educational, like a sex ed they're making kind of an interesting argument here that if you want something monetizable as like a sex ed conversation or let's talk video, you can't be talking about an experience you personally had, which seems really crazy, but it's a choice. I'm not gonna inherently say make the argument that I often make about Valve, at least. YouTube is making a choice to say, no, we will not monetize videos where you talk about your own experiences. You have to clinically talk about generic experiences, which it would be fairly easy to simply obfuscate your own experience by saying patient X or person X had this happen to them. But I imagine what they're really trying to weed out as far as people trying to monetize let's talk vlogs where people are just talking about their first experience, their first sexual experience, or just in general non-educational and non-informative experiences. What was the other thing that they were specifically talking about? I think that was pretty much it. So that does give you kind of an idea as far as where YouTube's head is at as far as demonetizing people this week. Of course, they're a big company and they find new reasons to demonetize people all the time. Level by Level Gaming's on the chat. He says hello, Rydo, or he's just calling me Ry or Y, but I'm close enough. Hello, Level by Level Gaming. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Embracelet, which this has a lot of awards on it. Let's see. They're calling it a story-rich puzzle game. And visually, it looks interesting. I think it very well might be like a point-and-click kind of game where you just walk around and maybe talk to people. There was a game I played relatively recently where it was friends walking around a island on a trip, and then it got very weird and very creepy, and then it kind of didn't accomplish anything at the end and felt very unsatisfactory. This is $11.69 with a bunch of languages. I'm gonna put it on the follow list and see what people have to say about it, which I guess since I'm not signed in means I'm going to leave it to put it on the follow list later. And Evolve, Earthright, and get rid of that guy.
Always beyond my reach.
And
A kiss.
get rid of that, I guess. And then attack that. I think that's as best as we can do. Let's see. Nicopera Volume 4 is coming to the PS4 and Switch in December. This is a long-running visual novel series of cat anime girls that I think is slightly lewd, but probably not terrible. Let's see. Here you have an interesting choice. Do you want to watch the PlayStation 4 trailer or the Switch trailer? Which would you think is more censored? These days it's probably the PlayStation 4. Speaking of the PlayStation 4, there I think have been confirmations now that some but not all of PlayStation 4 games will be backwards compatible. This is different than what had been said before, or at least implied before, where it had been implied that Sony was going to try and have an entire generational shift, and at least for new games they were going to make it so that all new games coming out for any kind of PlayStation would be PlayStation 5 only games after a certain date. But then they kind of backtracked on that, and there will be some cross-generational games that are both available for play on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So it may turn out that almost all of the games that are backward compatible with PlayStation, that are PS4 backward compatible, might be the exact same games that would have been cross-generational games anyways. Yeah, I'm watching this Nicopera trailer, and really isn't that bad. The worst part about it is just the kind of outfits that they wear, in that they all kind of have some cleavage showing, and then they have a coat or a bit of cloth at the top that matches and makes makes it kind of a boob window for all of the characters. And that's about it. There's no other nudity to it. So by anime standards, it seems like it's a fairly wholesome visual novel story. Of course, you never know. and visual novels often, even if they are adult themed visual novels, tend to swing wildly and have one image that's adult. They could easily be censored out, and then most of the other images aren't like that. Moving on, we have a game called King of the Cul-de-Sac, which is calling it an interactive graphic novel instead of a visual novel, which I'm not sure what they mean by the difference, but yeah, it does seem like you check options via text and there might not really be anything else, like left, right, and backward. Let's see, an interactive graphic novel, interactive comic with punching in it is what it's described as. It looks like there's some mini games too. Well, this game is free, so I can't hate it, and it's English. The question, I suppose, apparently has 7 endings, which is quite a lot. Actually, playing RuneCraft for this tournament isn't a terrible idea. Who is this character? Fumika Sagisawa. Another character I don't recognize. 6 different ending chapters. You know, I'm really confused why you would have a game that's your only game that you've listed as free. They put the publisher as NA, which you can see there is a considerable number of indie publishers, self-publishers that have labeled themselves as NA as not applicable, and Steam has done nothing to block that as an option, which it would be incredibly easy to do that. I'm starting to fall asleep again. I was gonna try and adjust my sleep schedule, and then I got woken up rudely, quite frankly. Yeah, otherwise I was thinking of well, actually I may still be on track, come to think of it, for what I was going to try and go for. I was going to try to be more awake right about now until about noon, and then fall asleep at about noon and wake up at sometime between 10 or 11 in the evening. And so I just need to manage to be a little bit more alert and a little bit more awake for a couple more hours. Really didn't say much about the accountability section today, other than I casually mentioned that I'm still playing Lego Marvel Avengers with no micro stuttering, although still running into occasional glitches here and there. It clearly is a game that's not bug free, but more to the point, the bigger issue is that it's been a while since I played a Lego game, and I really hadn't thought it completely through as far as just how much time I would be committing to playing a Lego game. So this might be a 60 to maybe even 100-hour experience of running around getting all the collectibles. And there's not really a great way to speed up that process, and anything you do to speed up the process really just means you're not experiencing the game the way the developers want you to experience it, which to a certain extent that has always been the case for Lego games, because they give you at least 60 minifig characters that you potentially could unlock and play as, but I never actually purchase any of those characters until the very end of the game, so I usually play as the same dozen or so characters. Let's see. Moving on, Go 5 Jigen game, Neptune Reverse has its debut trailer for the PlayStation 5. This is a Neptunia game. I don't know if it actually is in the main series or even in the Reverse series. It's apparently the definitive edition of Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 Plus for the PlayStation 5, which I guess means it's a re-release of a re-release, which they're getting fairly bad about that. And here you have Neptunia as a character in kind of a summer wear that's not particularly bad. I don't think the Neptunia series actually gets that bad as far as loot outfits, relatively speaking. I often wonder if the amount of skin that is shown in most anime characters' outfits is heavily affected by the fact that Japan is such a humid... Oh, that was a weird thing I just did, and I don't think I should have done that. Yeah, Japan is such a humid area with a lot of beaches where it might make sense to not be heavily overclothed. But see, if you actually look at the trailer here, well, the trailer just changed. Most of the outfits of the Neptunia characters are more sci-fi than anything else. And yeah, this is just an action RPG game. It doesn't look bad, but it's gonna be a weird challenge, certainly. Like, I probably should play whatever the earliest of the Dragon Age games or Ni no Kuni games that I have is. If I'm gonna play any JRPGs, I should probably play one of those. Then I should play a Neptunia game and just kind of balance it out that way. Then I should go back and play the next Dragon Age or Ni no Kuni game. Or Atelier game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Poker Master, which this kind of looks like an old poker game that I played back in the day on Windows 95, but I don't think it really is. Like, this image would be fairly standard for any poker game, so yeah, I don't think I played that. I definitely remember playing some fake poker game that I think was a Hoyle game, Hoyle, which I don't know if Hoyle is even a card brand anymore. But yeah, I definitely remember playing that a lot and failing miserably and losing all my money over and over again. All the fake virtual money. No real money was lost other than, I guess, the purchase price of the game. But that certainly helped teach me a lesson to not really gamble, and I never really did. In fact, honestly, I think maybe I gambled in a friendly poker game once, and maybe it was $5 at most. That's the thing. I think the only time I ever gambled with anything, because the risk of loss is just far too high. Like, you don't even really have to understand poker to realize the risk of loss is far too high, because you can run some very idiot math. There are 6 people at the table, and typically if you were in a casino, the casino would also be taking a percentage of the bids, or they would have a buy-in or something, so you'd lose money as soon as you sat down, or you'd be guaranteed to lose money at some point. Anyways, but if you just run idiot math and say that there's 6 people at the table, then you have 5 chances there you could lose and 1 chance you're going to win. That's terrible odds if you actually want to make money. And the only thing that would slightly make sense is if you're willing to waste money and you know you're going to waste the money, and you can make in your mind an argument that, say, the $5 you might lose is worth the equivalent of a $5 2-hour movie ticket, I guess maybe at that point you can make an argument to gamble. But I could never make that argument in my head. So I guess what I'm saying in a long way around it is, if you can find a no real world currency gambling game, poker game thing like that, and have I was probably about 12 years old when I played that game, have them play it over and over again, there's a decent chance that they will lose their money over and over again and realize that gambling is a bad choice. Or at least that's what happened for me. Maybe I'm just the odd one out. I very well might be the odd one out. This may be terrible advice that leads to a gambling addiction. But I definitely did know other people that were roughly that same age, and they were able to gamble online back in the day when gambling online was rampant. It was never really legal, but it was rampant. And I think they ended up losing a lot of money because, or at least a decent amount of money, not because they even lost, but because the sites got shut down and they took the money and ran. So they got scammed, effectively. But I guess that's what happens when you do business with people that are not following the law, or pretending like they're following the law when they really aren't. Okay. I'm gonna evolve this and clear this. I need to hurry up. Next we have a game on Steam called Gothic Murder Adventure That Changes Destiny. This looks like it's a visual novel otome game. It is $11.99. It's English only, no full audio. So I guess I'll put it on the full list and see what the reviews say. There might be something to this. The art looks fairly fine, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's not anything. Xbox put out a thing talking about their NVMe connection. Now, if this is a direct representation of what happens, that's not really a lot of wires getting directly connected to the CPU. 3 wires in theory would be the minimum number of wires, or 4 wires might be the minimum number of wires, but that's not a very fast way to connect things. So this is a primer on the simple and custom storage options available on the Xbox Series X and Series S that launched. Let's see. Xbox Velocity architecture is a custom NVMe SSD to store and play all your games. Let's see, you can also use USB 3.1 storage devices to connect things, but I don't think you can play games off of the USB 3.1 storage devices. I haven't seen anything that that said that.
This head can't be taken.
Interesting.
You go mad too. If only you knew.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna lose. Let's see.
Wait, how did I lose?
Well, one more time I need to lose, then we'll be done. Well, it says here you can also use USB 3.1 storage to store next generation game, optimized to take full advantage of Xbox Velocity architecture for quick transfer and play on the Xbox Series. Personally, what I would think is that these NVMEs would have more of a parallel connection that would use more than just 4 or 5 wires directly to the bus, as it were, of the CPU.
Don't
Yeah,
underestimate
I guess
me.
it would be the bus
I guess
there.
you're looking for a fight.
Maybe a PCI Express bus or some other custom Velocity bus. But if you're using USB 3.1 connections, then that's a serial connection. It's in the name, Universal Serial Bus. And so even at speeds of 3.1, I would have thought that that would be slower than Microsoft would like. Of course, it may not really matter. Speed is speed, and if you've got the speed, it'll work. And I imagine a lot of the physical connector differences here are just physical connector differences for no good reason. And I wouldn't be surprised if you very quickly see somebody make an adapter that turns a standard NVMe stick, SSD stick, into one of these connections. They also mentioned that they will have a 1 terabyte storage expansion card from Seagate, which at the moment I kind of feel like Seagate is a good name in hard drives, but I wouldn't have inherently gone to Seagate for an SSD. I would have gone to Samsung, and only Samsung for an SSD. In fact, I did go to Samsung and only Samsung for an SSD. So I have some questions here. Is my existing USB based SSD with the library games compatible? Yes, it's easily unplugging your existing USB 3.1 hard drive from your Xbox One and connecting it to it. I imagine if you had a USB 2.0 hard disk drive, the data would be accessible at least. You might not be able to play directly off of it. It may tell you this is not fast enough, you need to move it over. Or it may not care at all and just let you have a terrible experience because of that. You can continue to play games including backward compatible Xbox 360 and original Xbox games directly from the external hard drive. Yeah, it seems like they're not even going to care for any game except for the brand new Xbox Series games. I bet they might draw the line and say you can only play older games on the hard drives that are slower. Only old games. Let's see. How does the storage expansion card enable the use of Xbox Velocity architecture, which is too long of a name, XVA? The foundation of XVA is a custom internal SSD delivering 2.4 gigabits per second, gigabytes, capital B, per second of raw I/O throughput, more than 40 times the throughput of an Xbox One. So then the question here to ask is, let me just type in here, NVMe file throughput. Gotta keep on playing, not get too distracted. So I found a search here, how fast are NVMe speeds normally. You have up to 64K queues. That doesn't really mean anything to anybody. Top rates. Let's see. Fastest NVMe drives, which usually only available via OEMs and large enterprise customers, read 3 gigabytes per second and write 1 gigabytes per second. Alright.
Sorry for dancing so bad.
Need to keep playing. I'm distracting myself quite a bit by doing. Let's see. Here we have a Samsung SM951 specification, which is an M2 2280, which uses PCI Express 3.0 times 4 lanes.
It won't be long now.
And you can see sequential reads are about 2 gigabits per second, where sequential writes are considerably lower, for the particularly for the smaller versions. Okay. So, if that's what they typically have, coming back to the Xbox Velocity architecture, 2.4 gigabits per second of random read or sequential read, probably sequential read, is not really out of the line of what just a single generation improvement would have been. So that article I just saw might be 6 months old. So it doesn't really feel like they're doing anything new. Will you be able to play games through the storage expansion card? Yes. So here's the breakdown. Expansion card can do everything. A USB 3.1 hard disk drive, and they're going to really emphasize it has to be a USB 3.1 hard disk drive, which actually eliminates almost every hard disk drive that is available in the market at the moment. 5 losses. Give me a pity free pack. Well, not even that. They give me a pity 30 gold. Alright, let's see what our missions are now. Ranked wins with Runecraft or Dragoncraft. When we can see if we can do that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we can't actually succeed with Runecraft or Dragoncraft. But if you have the hard disk drive, you can't play games that are optimized for the Xbox Series X or S, and you don't replicate the speed and the performance of the internal SSD, which almost certainly the internal SSD is just another Seagate SSD installed internally.
Don't underestimate me.
Let's see.
A dazzling victory awaits.
And then here's the real question: is why did you create a custom solution rather than enabling users to install off-the-shelf SSDs? Which, in all fairness, there is a decent number of bad and slow SSDs, particularly at higher resolutions. I see them go on sale all the time, where they sell for a terabyte and yet they're 2 or 3 times cheaper than they should be, because the speed performance is so all over the place. But they've got a whole paragraph
Many blessings upon you.
here explaining why they're going for more of a walled garden approach. And frankly, for hardware, for consoles, you want a walled garden card approach, that's what you're buying into. If you want a PC, build a PC. And in all fairness, if you were building a PC, you could get potentially 8. Yeah, I think you could kind of fairly easily get adapter boards that would hold 2 NVMEs each. Get 4 of those, put those all in a new PC in the PCI Express slots, then create a 8-drive RAID 0 array with that, and get almost a exactly 8 times improvement in performance compared to the most expensive fastest SSDs you could have. But even at that point, that's kind of a silly solution, because there's a better solution. If you just want to throw all the money in the world at it, you could get a server motherboard with enough RAM slots that would allow you to put extremely fast DDR4 RAM on it, and then you could have an internal battery backup, always make sure the RAM is powered so it never loses any data, and you could just have a good old-fashioned RAM drive if you're looking for speed. So yeah, there's lots of solutions there.
No matter what, I'll shine.
See.
You've walked into the wrong forest, friend.
Here's an interesting feedback. Can I connect the storage expansion card to any Series X and Series S? Yes. There's this is going to be the way that you move your games from one house to another house. In the past on the 360, I definitely remember there was a situation where you had to potentially have a profile of your that confirmed you owned the games, and you would often have to move over that profile and log into that profile on another system. I'm assuming Microsoft fixed that bug or that situation, because like currently I have old Xbox 360s with a profile, and I can't log into the profile because I don't know the password, and somebody stole the email, I think, and stole probably the account. So if I ever lose that profile, I wouldn't be able to play a lot of the games that were on that 360. Although I don't think it particularly would matter either. It might be an interesting effort, and it probably really wouldn't be worth it, but it might be worth it for me to get an Xbox Series S and then see if I can take my old games from my Xbox 360 and transfer all of those and just see where that backward compatibility would really get me. Although it probably would just be easier to get the Games Pass options and instead just play whatever games the Games Pass offers. Xbox Games Ultimate Pass, whatever that is.
The sky is with you. Shifting into moonlight. Ready?
I have no
go!
words. I will save you no matter the cost.
I got fists
Yeah,
of
they're
justice,
saying
and
that if
nothing's
you
gonna stop 'em.
have games on disc versus digital, it works the same as Xbox One today. When you insert a game disc, the game data is installed to an internal SSD or expandable storage. When you play the game runs directly from the local storage, but you must still have the disc inserted to prove the license for the game. So there is clearly an advantage to still buying the games on disc, because that means you can hand the disc over to people and let them play it on a different console and just lend out your games. versus the digital versions of games, you would have to take your entire hard drive over to your friend's house, and that's a bigger move, certainly.
Bow before Dark Dragoon, ruler of the skies.
Quick resume
All into every shot.
will also work. Clearly this question and answer form is just the answers in the questions they want to ask and answer, though. They are not going to put a question here that goes that really goes against anything that they want to message. So they're like, why does the 1 terabyte storage expansion cost $220? That's probably very close to what a good 1 terabyte SSD should cost. Maybe you're talking $20 over. I wouldn't be surprised if you were to run the calculation here. Let's say that the OEM price from Seagate of a 1 terabyte SSD is 30% cheaper than Microsoft probably is making only about $50 on the $220 sale, if Microsoft is making anything. Microsoft may not be involved at all, and it may very well actually cost nearly $200 in material to make a 1 terabyte SSD. And of course they're going to give their spiel here that it's unprecedented speed. Inherently, because these do have that custom connector, you can look forward to a situation in the future, 10 years down the line, where people are going to run into a bunch of these and try to find some use for them, to recycle them or reuse them. Although 10 years in the future, 1 terabyte may not be enough memory to matter, and the speed just may not be high enough to matter. That was the problem that certainly we ran into as far as the memory cards on the Xbox 360, is that they barely had like 64 megabytes on them, and they were such custom pieces of equipment that it wouldn't have been ever worth your effort over the lifetime of them to take them apart. It's worth, I guess, also mentioning this is a Kingston lock hole, where you buy a special lock to lock down usually laptops, and I would kind of recommend everybody have one of those if you get an Xbox Series X or even a Series S. Lock down your devices, put it around something that's welded to the wall or something that can't be moved easily. It may buy you the crucial couple of seconds to catch somebody trying to smash and grab a very expensive device. I guess the real question is, would an Xbox One at the moment, if you could get an Xbox One broken, would it be worth it to take one of those apart and try and get the hard drives out of them? Maybe. Yeah, they're probably big enough that if you're getting the whole device for free and the hard drive isn't the problem, taking it apart and getting a hard drive makes sense. Where an Xbox 360 didn't have a hard drive in it, or the hard drives that could have been in the Xbox 360 were so old and so slow and so small. I guess that is an interesting question. What is the size of an Xbox One hard drive? Let me see if I can look that up on my phone. Let's see. I'm getting very distracted here. Xbox One hard disk drive size.
Hey, I'm the grown-up
500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. So then the real question would be speed. At the next stop. 5400 RPM. That's what I thought it would have been. So I'm not surprised by that. So you have what is probably a very slow laptop hard drive at 500 gigabytes, which is still a reasonable amount of space, even if you just are going to use it for a backup hard drive. So yeah, I would currently at the time rip out any Xbox One hard drives. If you had a broken Xbox One, I don't know how many broken Xbox Ones are out there, and there's a decent argument that Xbox Ones still work way better as consoles than they would be scrapped for parts if you have a working unit. But you don't have a situation like the 360 where those hard drives probably never went above 120 gigabytes. And normal people probably could live on half a terabyte of data for their entire lifetime. Only weirdo IT people like me want thousands and thousands of gigabytes, entire terabytes, and RAID arrays, and just backups on backups. Alright.
Darkness on this flame.
Don't want to evolve this. Nope. Moving on, we have Nier Replicant, it now available for pre-order and pre-download on Xbox One. This is not the cell phone Nier game that they announced that was like the walking simulator. This is a different Nier game that is, I think, a direct sequel to Nier Automata. Well, no, it's not a sequel, it's a one-of-a-kind prequel to Nier Automata, which would make more sense. Because it would be very hard to have a sequel to Nier Automata without ruining the ending of Nier Automata, whatever ending you got even. I still haven't gotten around to owning or playing Nier Automata, so I wanted to play it. It's just one of those games that never goes on sale. Moving on, the Tribeca Film Festival is going to add video games to its official selections, which will be interesting. Here we have Jeff Keighley, who definitely wants his video game awards show. I think that's Jeff Keighley, at least. He wants that to be the Oscars of video games. Here you have Kojima, who wants to make games like Death Stranding, like movies. And I don't know who this character is. Yeah, Jeff Keighley, head of Halo Transmedia and Entertainment, Kiki Wolfkill. Yeah, they were trying to make like Halo movies and TV shows, weren't they? They never got off the ground with that one.
No dragon can take my prey.
I think there might be a little tokenism being played here. Kojima, worth mentioning. Her, not so much. Kiki Wolfkill, sorry, never heard of you. Jeff Keighley, arguably not worth mentioning either because he runs the Video Game Awards, but he doesn't actually, I think, make anything at all. He makes the Game Awards. But I guess all of these people are actually directly involved in the Tribeca Game Awards. Video games will be added to the Tribeca Film Festival program. Official selections in 2021. Chosen projects will be eligible for an honor. A Tribeca Game Award recognizing games that demonstrate artistic experience and storytelling. So does that immediately eliminate Death Stranding because of a conflict of interest? it should, and that for 2020, which I assume the awards would be for the games that came out in the previous year. What are you talking about as far as games that would be artistically noteworthy? The Last of Us 2, that'll be controversial.
Don't
I
underestimate
don't know
me.
what other games you'd even
Prepare for defeat.
mention. Let's see. I'd love to see what are even eligible. But I guess they probably will just say every game is eligible. They're mentioning games like LA Noire, God of War, League of Legends, What Remains of Ethan Finch. Okay. So these in the past were games that were announced in 2011 with LA Noire, and then God of War. I guess that would be the reboot of God of War, League of Legends, and What Remains of Edith Finch. It kind of feels like the Tribeca Film Fest has stuck their toe in this concept, and then they backed off, and then they're trying it again, probably in an attempt to make themselves relevant. I guess submissions are open to submit at the moment. I'd like to see what submissions get accepted. But if one assumes that they have to limit themselves to the previous year, otherwise this is going to turn out to be an awards event very much like some of the other awards we've seen, where I think it's the Modern Museum of Art is randomly picking video games from all of the history of video games as far as what they want to give awards to. So like, I think the last year that we saw them announce anything, they gave award to like Pac-Man and something as modern as like Zelda Breath of the Wild and a bunch of games in the middle, which didn't really make any sense. TechRaptor has a review for a game called Pendragon, which looks like a kind of cardboard cutout tile movement adventure game. I don't know if these are different moves you can make via like random cards. It doesn't look terrible, just stylized. Let's see, they gave it an 8.80. Pendragon is a game of both strategy and story, offering different kind of gameplay and experience while digging into historical mythos. Pros are a unique gameplay style, blends strategy and roguelike, a roguelite, well-researched historical mythos, and beautiful stained glass art style. Stained glass is a interesting way to describe it, but okay.
Do you know about Star's power?
Cons are that the game punishes you. It punishes defensive play, and it has a forgettable soundtrack. And
You will soon
let's see.
Blood debts are paid in kind.
TechRaptor is a website that is just so incredibly obnoxious, full of stuff, or full of obnoxious things.
All are equal before love.
That really is worth just once again showing what TechRaptor looks like before I block things. There's just so much stuff here, and there's a second ad blocker that's still blocking ads on this website, but there's just so many internal ads that point to other things. Although I did accidentally get rid of the pros and cons part. But you have like share tabs, you have more like this, more like this, more an entire bottom footer of stuff. and then compare that to what I got it down to for more of a distraction free depiction, and you can see there's still some problems.
Let me love you.
Splendid brutality.
Still some elements that need to be blocked.
Witness the power.
But even at that, it is so much better.
Please love me.
I can't suppress this craving.
It's basically every time you make you reload the page, you see more ads. Just loads in more. But if my only complaint about TechCrafter is that they overload their website with ads for other of their other articles, that complaint is not anywhere as bad as most of the mainstream video game journalist websites, where there's much bigger things to complain about on things like IGN and Kotaku. Alright, well, we've lost several times trying to get Runecraft or Dragoncraft victories. Let's just play a Forcecraft and see if we can get a victory. The Myst 25th Anniversary Collection is half off at the moment for $39.93. This includes all of the Myst games that are currently available for sale on Steam, but they also just announced a remake of Myst 1 again. So, like, this bundle gives you Myst Masterpiece Edition and Real Myst Masterpiece Edition. It doesn't include the original Myst in any form, or Real Myst, the original Real Myst, in any form. Not that there's much that is different from Myst Masterpiece Edition and the original Myst. And you're only getting a better quality product with the Masterpiece Edition. But in a funny way, you are probably better off not playing any of the Myst games, or at least the first Myst game, until the reboot happens. And it will be a tough comparison, certainly, to look at Real Myst Masterpiece Edition and see the new reboot and the new remake and see how much has really been improved, because it may not have been improved that much. They might finally take the step to get rid of the live action acting in the reboot remake and have just 3D polygonal characters replace Atris and the brothers. And if that's the direction they're going to go, that's an interesting direction, because that then opens up the door for them to either redo Myst and continue it and make more sequels without having to bring out very old people to act as the actors once again, or hire new actors. Or it even opens up the door, and you almost want this to be the case, where this new remake of Myst is secretly not going to be a remake of Myst, but an alternate take on Myst, where you find out that Atris is actually the bad guy and he gets killed in the first game, and the brothers are actually the good guys, and you follow them and their story, or something along that line. I guess that's potentially a spoiler for Myst, a 25-year-old game. But if you're any fan of Myst, or if you're any fan of, like, historically, severely relevant historical games, this is a great time to get this bundle. It's $40, but you're saving $40, and you get 6 games here. 6 very long puzzle games that your mileage may vary a little bit depending on whether you like puzzle games or not. At the very least, playing the Real Mist Masterpiece Edition and Riven Masterpiece Edition. Wait, nope, there was no Masterpiece Edition for Riven, was there? Just Riven is almost required. Required to call yourself a real gamer in my mind. I don't want to get down to those pedantic arguments, but I think you probably should have at least launched Mist 1 and Riven and have a small understanding of it. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The NVIDIA RTX 3080 cards are having crashing issues. It's been updated. MSI has told them they're aware of the issue around 3080 cards crashing games. It also seems like I haven't listened to a lot of reviews, but it does seem like there are not particularly great reviews coming out for the 3880. I don't know if that is just inherently because it's such an incredibly expensive card that there's no way it can live up to its own hype. I think that is in part the case, but I think it also might just be a situation where there was a product here that was rushed to release for no good reason. Yeah. Am I gonna lose, or could I possibly win here? No, I'm gonna lose, obviously. 816 plus that is 22.
What's that for? Whoa, you're strong.
You definitely had a situation with the 3080 that people were telling everybody that would even start to listen that they should not buy those cards, that they are not worth the incredibly high price, and NVIDIA video cards are at a high price. Actually, I was just listening to the Beastcast, and apparently half of at least 2 of the 4 people on that podcast claimed that their PCs had 900 series NVIDIA graphics card installed, and yeah, I was running a 980 before. About 6 months ago I got a 2080, and honestly that's a little shocking that people getting paid to review video games, and that would include playing PC games, would have such a weak video card. Like, if I was getting paid to review video games of realistic living wage of any sort, I would have almost day one replaced my 980. And I probably would have spent too much money, and I probably even now spent too much money on it, but to get a 2080. But now definitely would be the time to buy a 2080. You could probably get one for about $300, and that will save you. That will work for you, I think, particularly well. Is this an allied artifact?
It's the small things in life.
No, you need an artifact follower. Oops. Valve tweeted out, and they don't do that very often. The Left 4 Dead 2 is free this weekend, and they released the Last Stand update, a massive Left 4 Dead 2 update built by the community, which is a weird thing to say because it kind of admits first and foremost that Left 4 Dead 2 is not being worked on by Valve. But you can see, well, this tweet was 23 hours ago. Their last tweet, publicly at least, was May 5th for Half-Life Alyx. But if you follow that pattern, at least Valve, when they are tweeting something good, and they are tweeting something that shows a commitment of some level to actually making new products and selling new things. Now would be a decent time, if I had time, to go and play a Left 4 Dead 1 and then Left 4 Dead 2, because I imagine the player base will be fairly high, and I would like to play it enough to at least review it. I don't know if I particularly care any further than that. Yeah, I wouldn't mind experiencing it once again. Let's see if this works. Do I have any artifact followers in my deck? Nope. So there's this whole strategy that I'm failing miserably. Mafia Definitive Edition is available on Steam. This came out September 24th. It's rated very positively. I'm confused. Wasn't Mafia 1 reviewed badly? Or is it Mafia? Yeah, Mafia 3 Definitive Edition is reviewed mixed. Mafia 1 is reviewed badly. No, Mafia 1 is reviewed well, and Mafia 2 is mixed. So it kind of feels like the only one to really play is the first in the series. And that works. That works perfectly fine if you just want to play a game where you're doing a Grand Theft Auto in the past as a mafioso. I imagine that's what you're doing. Yeah, just play the first game. Don't buy the trilogy. Don't admit that the sequels exist, and live your life content, I suppose. I'm gonna put this on the field.
Guns can be kind of finicky.
And then gonna do this.
Pretty good.
And then in there. Honestly, it would be nice if there were more trilogies kind of at that level where the first game is fairly playable and the sequels would be ignorable. But that's not the case. Things like Half-Life, like Half-Life 1, for instance, you couldn't just play that, or I was thinking of a different game. Not Half-Life, but I was thinking Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1 is kind of a great example of that. You really can't play Mass Effect 1 or just play Mass Effect 2. You kind of need to play all three of them. Here we have a game that's all in Asian letters, and it looks like it's a Nathan Drake Lara Croft clone game. And it doesn't look terrible, but it kind of looks like it's just walking. Unfortunately, English won't be supported. It's early access for $9.99, Chinese only. And yeah, at the core, I still have heavy suspicions that it is just a cheap Chinese game. Interesting to see all the descriptions in Chinese too. You don't see a ton of that. I think I probably need to buy Lego Worlds at some point. Next time there's a big sale. I don't know if the next sale even matters. It depends on what kind of bonuses we get.
You watching?
like, if there are no rewards for the fall sale, then there's really no reason to buy any games. Like, I'm still not gonna catch up, even though I am currently in a period where I'm playing more games and making more footage. I'm not gonna catch up and get through the I'd imagine over 800 games that I have to potentially play. It would take me probably 4 or 5 years straight of playing games, and particularly eliminating things eliminating a lot of games that I would just have to admit to myself I'm not ever gonna play.
You so mad too. If only you knew.
Gamma Sutra has an article here. Supercell is going to pay $8.5 million over a patent dispute with the free-to-play developer Agree. This was a Texas court ordering Tencent subsidiary Supercell to pay the Japanese developer Agree. Jury found willful infringement on Agree's patterns. According to Bloomberg, Agree accused Supercell in its mobile game Clash of Clans of infringing several of its patents related to Agree's freemium games, particularly ones surrounding how downloadable games are controlled and presented to the player, some visual effect elements, enhancements, and in-game purchases, and then inter-player object transfers are controlled. See, to me, this sounds like this company Agree was a patent troll that shopped and went to a Texas court because people in Texas probably don't understand computer games as well as, say, a California court might. But I'm not sure I 100% believe that narrative if they actually did have freemium games. And I would love to think Supercell and Tencent are the guilty party here. At the core of it, I think this is an issue of patents just being approved that are way too broad, and they just kind of let that happen all the time in the US Patent Office. That they make it so that patents get approved and then it gets settled in courts, and yeah, that's really what here. The jury ultimately found Supercell infringed on found of Agree's patents. I wonder if that was supposed to be 4, and rejected Supercell's arguments the patents themselves were invalid. So far, that means Supercell has been ordered to pay $8.5 million, which is probably an incredibly small amount of money compared to what Supercell has made charging people playing Clash of Clans.
Here comes some real magic.
Well, once again, TickRaptor has its cross-promotion deal with Nutaku, and they have an article here that says Nutaku celebrates hentai campaign aims to fight taboos. I assume that was supposed to be a comma. And there's also a sale. Let's see. What can you really do to fight taboos around hentai though? Like, you've got Australian senators trying to make them illegal and blaming everything they possibly can on hentai and just anime and anything Japanese, frankly, because Australians sort of for good reason are mad at the Japanese, but they're historically mad at them, so it's not a modern reason to be mad at them. And then what else would really be mad at hentai? Just China, I guess, in part. And social justice warriors who are really just pro censorship might be mad at it, but really nobody important, frankly. So this really is just kind of an excuse for
I guess you're looking for a fight.
for a sale. What you're not gonna have is hentai so actively popular and actively promoted that there's like posters in high school saying check out hentai, it's awesome. That's not gonna happen, and shouldn't happen, obviously. If anything, the number one thing I think that has made a good argument to be pro hentai lately is probably the Netflix movie Cuties, because from the descriptions I've heard, which I'm literally just afraid to even watch it, and I'm willing to watch almost anything on Netflix, and I don't want it in my watch history, but from the descriptions I've seen and heard from other people, it's just extremely explicit in the camera angles and shots that they're just are made, and the actions that the actual underage kids were asked to partake in, to a level that where actual U.S. senators and congressmen are calling for an investigation. This is probably just political saber rattling, but it does seem to be fairly extreme. So extreme that, like, I was watching a group of very dirty comics that would say and almost do anything for a laugh. Watched one scene of it and they go, well, that's over the line. That was not acceptable. When they watched like the final dance sequence, I believe, which I think is really probably the worst part of it. And like they literally said that they've watched beheading videos and made comedy around that, and they found Cuties unacceptable. So yeah, how that relates to hentai is the general idea that you'll have to take a step back and think of it this way, but it gives people more perspective and to think and say, well, there are Hollywood independent aspiring Hollywood directors and writers and movie makers that were greenlit and allowed to make this movie and sell it to Netflix and put it on the Tribeca Film Festival, and there was no real oversight. These images are going to be available probably for all future, for all time, and nobody said no. Nobody stopped that. There were clearly ways that you could have made a movie like Cuties to get across the message that they claim they're trying to get across without actually showing the image, the shots that they chose to shoot. And there was an active decision there to not go that route.
Now, if you would please look to your right.
The real battle begins.
Any questions?
And there clearly needed to be somebody in power, some authority, some representative that wasn't the parents, because the parents clearly failed their children as parents and allowed them to do something that they they would not have known the ramifications of, and they may not have even known what they were doing or how the image has been shot in the first place. So there needed to be a third-party independent protector of those child actors, pretty much on any set. Somebody who with the power and authority and willingness to say no, this shot is not going to be done.
Don't give up.
This bears further study.
Like for that final dance sequence, you could have easily had all of the dance sequences shot in a reverse shot,
Any questions?
so that the kid actors were not actually on the stage dancing at all, and you could have just gotten a audience reaction of shock, and that's the same message you were trying to send anyways. Or you could have gone to a stylized animation sequence there, back to the hentai thought, where you have that. You could have also gone to a silhouette sequence, and you could have had body doubles and adults do the dance. You could have gone into a fantasy sequence where it was adults dancing.
I'll design a brighter future for everyone.
There could have been any number of creative artistic ways to ensure that. There was a British comedy show on Netflix where they did a shot where it looked like the British comedian adult cursed out a kid using very offensive language, basically the worst word you could use in the United States, English, and they simply just didn't have him in that shot, so the kid never heard what the
Don't give up.
final composition made it look like.
Any questions?
He said.
Unbelievable! Unbelievable!
Moving on. TechRaptor has an article here. A child cancer patient, Luke, was given a special version of his favorite game by the creator. Apparently his favorite game, though, is Farming Simulator.
Not.
So I don't want to game shame somebody with cancer. And he has a feeding tube right here. That's what that is, up his nose. And directly into his stomach. They're rather small. But yeah, I really wouldn't have expected Farming Simulator to be a kid's favorite game. I'm not sure what the exact special version of the game
Persevere.
is, and this really is just a feel-good article. But frankly, video games need feel-good articles. We don't get enough of those. We get far too many there is this game and it should be canceled, there's this person and they should be canceled type articles. But a little good news, a little advertisement in the form of good news is
Design a brighter future for
not a bad idea. The Epic Game Store again had some problems. 22 hours ago they said they're aware of degradation of online services impacting live games. They're working on it. 20 hours ago they fixed it. Let's do that. Well, this is the card I would need. Can I survive long enough to play it? I have not been moving fast enough to actually get through all the news. We may have to just decide to wrap up today without covering all the news. Gamatsu has an article. Amazon Luna Cloud Gaming Service has been announced. Launched as an invitation-only early access today. This seems like this is a competitor to Stadia, and it's kind of funny that it's not being branded under something like Amazon Warehouse or Amazon something like Amazon Warehouse Gaming.
envy you.
At first I thought it was Lua, L-U-A, but it's Luna. It's gonna be $5.99 a month for the early access period. It's gonna include games like Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Control, Panzer Dragoon Remake. It's interesting that it's not a Twitch branded product, but it's fairly obvious at this point Amazon does not care one bit about Twitch branding, and that the Twitch name is not good enough to continue to use. They'll keep Twitch around, but they're not. They moved like Twitch gaming to Amazon Prime Gaming, and everything is just gonna stick on the Amazon brand. And Amazon's brand is not particularly as good as it should be, or as I'm sure they would like it to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if they even dropped Amazon at one point and they just started going with Prime.
I'm still inexperienced, but I'll try.
There is still, I think, a great argument to break up Amazon and not let them create new cloud gaming services, for instance, on top of being these major storefronts. Like the back-end computer services, in my opinion, should be forced in an antitrust way to be split into a different company from the front-end storefront services or end-user client services. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Crimson Ranch, which looks like it's a MS Paint troll horror game. It's $2.69, English, Portuguese, and Russian. I don't see anything here of interest, so I'm not going to put that on the follow list. Okay. This. That's about all I can do. Gamatsu has an article, The World Ends With You, the animation, has main visuals and additional voice casts announced. I don't know if that image is supposed to be on the side like that, or if I messed it up. Well, let's see what the page looks like otherwise. Nope, the image is designed to just be on the side there. I think The World Ends With You as a game, as an anime versus a game, probably would be a better move.
So many souls.
Let's see. I should have done this first. And then I should have evolved that. And then I should have played the other character.
You won't wake now. Close your eyes.
Deeds.
Seriously? But even though I think The World Ends With You will be better as an animation, I'm still not sure it has a broad enough appeal that I could recommend most people watch the animation. Next we have a game on Steam here called Beetle Quest, which looks like it's a hidden object. They're calling it a point and click game, so maybe it is, but it's also hand drawn, which in this case means terribly drawn, and in something like MS Paint. This is $8.99 in English and Dutch, which is an odd combination of languages, and it looks like an odd combination of themes and characters. So I don't know if the Dutch generally make weird stuff or not.
I'm out of spirit. Now close your eyes.
Lick me whiskers!
But yeah, Beetle Quest does not look good enough. Next we have Urban Survival, and at a certain point here I think I selected several obvious low effort survival asset flip games. to just point out that quite a few of them have been released. This is $9.99 English only.
The sky is with you, shifting into moonlight.
Like probably I picked 2 or 3 of them that didn't need to be mentioned. Here we have a game called Crazy Kung Fu, which looks like a VR game where you're hitting paddles, but then there's also swords that pop up. That's not how this normally would go. Practicing and potentially cutting off your head is not a good way to practice by any means. This requires VR. It's $8.99. It's English only. Yeah, I just don't see enough there. And okay. So at this point, I want to just go to the home page because I'm getting tired. We've failed to get 2 ranked matches victories in all, let alone 3 matches victories in all, let alone Runecraft and Dragoncraft, which I need to just start re-rolling Runecraft and Dragoncraft quests. Like I cannot win with Runecraft and Dragoncraft at the moment, and there's no point at which we're going to be able to adjust for that because I'm not going to be able to get any more cards, not unless I just want to buy like 30 packs of this, which probably wouldn't be a terrible idea to buy like 10 packs of this right now. Meanwhile, Gematsu has the Tokyo Game Show 2020 online schedule available, which is happening September 24th, which I think is today. So yeah, seems like it's going all the way through the weekend to the 27th. And I'm gonna just skip pretty much everything that's a new game. An Eternal Well. The question here is how many of these cards will end up being extra and turned into files, and how many of them will be brand new things that we don't have copies of. I imagine that's the case, and we will end up with extra platinum cards like this, that legendary cards. I imagine this is new also. There is a catch-22 to this situation that we're currently in. If I'm not doing the daily quest, I'm not getting gold. Thus, I'm not going to then be able to open more packs if it is necessary to open more packs. Seems like I am doing a fairly good job about getting new cards. I wonder if the drop rates changed because the pre-release event has happened. Here we have another legendary card, and she's showing her foot for those with a foot fetish, which it always seems like there's more people with foot fetishes than you would think. Meanwhile, Major Nelson has a game called Port Royale 4 available for Xbox One. Never heard of a Port Royale series, though it looks like yet another pirate game. And then Spice and Wolf VR 2 has been confirmed for PlayStation VR, Switch, PC, Oculus Rift, and Oculus Go. Oculus Quest 1 and 2 are not going to be supported. Spice and Wolf is a anime that's fairly old, but they've turned it into VR experiences. Another gold card. Major Nelson also announced this game, Sentinels of Freedom, and this image in particular caught my eye. I don't know if I can make it bigger or not, but yeah, it is particularly badly animated. The game looks so. It does definitely looks like a garbage game. Let's see. Gamatsu has a PC announcement here for Super Real Mahjong Love 2 through 7, coming to PC on December 25th in Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if it is going to be available on Steam at some point in the future, but right now it seems to be on a website called Fans of Games. These are old, like 90s anime style mahjong games that probably have an occasional naked boob to show when you win a game of mahjong, or that would be my guess, is that they have a little bit of nudity. I got another Eternal Whale and I got Ball. I'm doing great. So 1, 2, 3 cards from that. So where does that put us with the tradables? We have 1 missing here, 3 missing here, 2 missing here, 1, 2, 3, 4 missing here, 2 missing here. There's still a ton, aren't there? We have all 3 of the, what is this, Bloodcraft? No, Shadowcraft. We have all of the Bloodcraft ones. We have 2 missing there, and we have 3 missing there. So there's still is plenty of cards to potentially purchase before the tradables would be useful. So the question is, do I want to open another 10 packs? I don't think I want to do that now. If we are going to open some more packs of the old expansion, we should do that later. And that gave me 22 silver extras and 45 bronze extras, which will bump me up to 9,500 vials. It definitely does feel like it is reasonable that we will get a complete collection, if not a complete collection, of animated cards for the now leaving card expansion. Let's see, moving on. Gamatsu has a article. Kimco and Water Phoenix announced a new visual novel themed around Full Dive Online game. Full Dive Online meaning that you put on some kind of VR headset or equipment and your entire consciousness is uploaded to the game. Something like Sword Art Online, for instance. Or at least one assumes that's what happened in Sword Art Online. And I imagine we will have several visual novels announced at Tokyo Game Show. And I'm not sure how many of those will actually come to the West or have relevancy to the West. My teen romantic comedy Snafu Climax game has been announced. The word climax often used in Japanese. I feel like it's probably a mistranslation and isn't inherently supposed to mean anything sexual, whereas in the United States the word climax is almost always only used for a sexual reference. And I imagine this is probably just a romance visual novel game that's what the equivalent of Teen Plus would be. at most. Oh, I could be wrong about that. Let's see. Gamatsu has RPG Golf Legends have been announced for consoles and PC out in 2021. This probably is a sequel to RPG Golf. Let's see. It's a unique action RPG in which players go on an adventure in a world of golf and monsters. The first game in the series, RPG Golf, launched for iOS via the App Store in 2017 and Android in December of 2017 and Steam in 2018. So, yeah, this is a sequel to a Steam game, and I've always wanted to play RPG Golf, but you kind of also see that it's mixed reviewed, and it doesn't even have that many reviews in the first place. And maybe that's because it's being compared to Golf with Friends and some other golf games that are on Steam. Or maybe there's some other problem with it. So I'd have to like re-evaluate the idea of whether this is a smart investment, or maybe this is one of those cases where it would be better to just play the sequel if you're going to play anything, and maybe RPG Golf Legends actually won't be worth playing either. Next we have an article from Gamatsu. Kimco RPG Selection Volume 6 is coming to the PS4 in 2021 in Japan. Kimco is, I think, a name of a different company that I think they changed their name or merged. And this is a collection of old games, old probably Genesis games that I don't think came to the West. So, yeah. I'm not sure that really has any relevancy. Samurai Showdown is coming to the Xbox Series this winter, according to Gamatsu. And then CNN was retweeted by the ESRB. They retweeted their online CNN health article from September 5th that says video games help children improve literacy, communication, and mental well-being. I think this is a survey. This is talking about a survey that happened around that time. So they're kind of just saying the same thing over and over again, what ESRB is. But I can't really blame them for that either, because in all honesty, for all the negative attention video games get consistently, you kind of need to repeat yourself. I feel like there wasn't a battle pass button before. Yeah, I'm not sure this was always here. So I hope they're not trying to make people buy battle passes like Magic the Gathering did, because that was bad. That was a bad experience. You could do it with free to play currency, but it was very, very expensive, and I didn't even have enough currency after 2 expansions. Moving on, we have Gamatsu posted a Resident Evil 25th anniversary artwork. There is something to be said about who is front and center for the 25th anniversary, in that this is Leon, and then you have a zombie guy from like Resident Evil 7, and then you have Ada Wong from Resident Evil 4, and then you have some other characters from the earlier Resident Evil series. But there's a lot of people being left out in this group, and this feels like this is more of a piece of art showing what they think they're going to be remembered for, or what they're going to re-release and sell on the next consoles, more than a look back on the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, because they are definitely turning a blind eye to like Sheva and Chris Redfield and any of the other characters in Resident Evil 6. The President's Daughter, for instance. Gametsu also had some high-res character artwork that they tweeted out of characters from Resident Evil Village, which I don't know who this character is supposed to be, and this character is clearly hiding his face, so I don't know who that's supposed to be. But so yeah, there's some more characters that should probably be highlighted, even if you're not going to do anything more with them. Otherwise, you're getting to the point where Capcom is just retconning the Resident Evil series, which, if they wanted to reboot the whole Resident Evil series, which they kind of have done, and retcon a lot of the content, that's great, but what they need to do is they need to make an artistic decision, remake and re-release Resident Evil 4, and at some point near the end of Resident Evil 4, they need to decide that they're going to go in a different direction with the story, and make that obvious. Kind of how Final Fantasy VII Remake, or what is it? Yeah, I think it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is changing its story to tell a very different tale. Honestly, you could completely remake Resident Evil 4 and then just put a teaser at the very end of the game after the credits to show what Resident Evil 5 looks like, and show that it is not going to have Chris or Sheva in it at all, and instead it's going to have just Leon doing something different, or Chris doing something different. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. The Epic Games has acquired a company called Super Awesome to create a range of, quote, kid-safe services, which has no fee has been disclosed on how it's been acquired. Super Awesome has built a number of tools that allow developers to create safer digital experiences for younger audiences, including kid-safe monetization via awesome ads and parental consent management toolkits, kids web service. I was thinking about this earlier because the Child Online Protection Act, COPA, is probably being heavily violated right now in the middle of the pandemic. I have no idea if Zoom is collecting data that it shouldn't be, or if many of the Zoom competitor softwares are doing that. I heard of at least one test-taking software that has no end-user license agreement whatsoever, and basically is just a virus that takes over the kids' computers. But yeah, I imagine a lot of these softwares are collecting information that they legally can't, because to my understanding, COPA says if they're under 12, you can't collect any information whatsoever, and you need parents' consent if they're under 18. So I don't know the law backwards and forwards on that, but the idea that you could make kids safe services seems ridiculous, and that you would go in that in that direction kind of feels sleazy. What does, you could easily rewrite this headline to say Epic Games just acquired a company to sell things to kids and put more ads in front of kids. This company has worked with brands such as Lego, NBC, Universal, and Hasbro, which 2 of the 3 of those are not companies that I would be happy with. I like Lego, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they worked with Lego on one project and it wasn't even a big project, or if it was a TT game Lego project that is getting misconstrued as working with Lego directly. Right now, the Epic Game Store has nothing to offer really as far as kid-safe games, and the idea that there would be even kid-friendly games on the Epic stores is questionable to say the least, because there aren't that many kid-friendly games in general. So yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. Moving on, Gamatsu has Resident Evil Village may come to the PS4 and Xbox One, according to this developer diary. This is Chris Redfield, apparently. I can now read it better. Yeah, he looks old, but I did think that might be Chris Redfield. And this is Ethan Village. Oh, W something Wilson. Almost certainly this is a character that they're hiding hiding something. He's probably the son of the big bad guy. Like that would be my guess, is that they're just gonna try and have Wesker show up again. Yeah. Let's see. Ethan Wesker. That doesn't look like Wesker, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes by like Ethan William, and then at the end is revealed that it's Ethan Wesker. I think they even, if they didn't say that directly, they hinted heavily that there were going to be 2 descendants of Wesker in the game. And you kind of need that anyways. You need some kind of recognizable bad guy like Wesker, but perhaps not as cheesy or ridiculous as Wesker, and not as monstrous as the last time we saw Wesker. Although it wouldn't be terrible if they just brought back Wesker and he had somehow regained his human form. But the power creep on Wesker was very high. TechRaptor has a review here for Trollhunters Defender of Arcadia. Trollhunters, I think, is a Netflix animation for kids, and it looks pretty awful. So I imagine as a TV tie-in game, it's probably pretty bad. It does look like just a platformer. They're giving it a 3.5. Unless you're a young child or a massive Trollhunters fan, avoid this boring unoriginal game at all costs. The pros are the soundtrack manages to build tension in later sections, and the voice acting is decent. The cons are its boring, unimaginative gameplay, drab graphics, incomprehensible plot, and lazy cliched dialogue. And I would not be surprised for a second if that is exactly the same level of quality you would get if you actually watched Trollhunters. And it's made by DreamWorks, but I don't think DreamWorks as a company has a name behind them anymore. I'm not sure if DreamWorks ever made good quality movies. I think they did. I think a couple of them were good. Then they make up. I think they did, but that might have been Pixar. It's hard to tell. I'm not an expert in animated movies. Next, TechRaptor has a review for Serious Sam 4, which came out, and I saw from a fan of the Serious Sam series, they weren't very happy about it, but then I saw someone else review it and they seemed to like it. So I think it's probably fairly neutral, and I imagine the Serious Sam series is always been fairly neutral. It's a mouse and keyboard first-person shooting game with little effort, I imagine, around a compelling story or anything like that. It's just supposed to be lighthearted and good, clean, fun, Duke Nukem style of experience. TechRaptor gave it a 7.5. Serious Sam 4 succeeds where it needs to and fails where it's not really all that important. An unchanging series that is a must for fans. And I think you're kind of right there that only fans of the Serious Sam series really care about Serious Sam, so if they changed it, they would just lose those fans. They gave the pros: our enemies look great and impressively plentiful. It improves massively on the predecessor. It has impressive and fun weaponry, huge play space, and mounts and mechs break up the tedium. The cons are its flimsy story and plot with forgettable side characters, its funky visuals, and its somewhat frustrating giant bosses. So, yep. That does strike me as what I expected to have happen for Serious Sam, or what I expected the reviews would be. Gamatsu has a article here for Fault Milestone 2 being delayed to spring 2021. This is another visual novel, I believe. Yeah, right. I don't think I'll play that trailer just in case Fault is more of a mature game than I think it is. It might be. Excuse me as I'm drinking some water. Next we have a game here called Kirby Fighters 2 on Gamatsu, now available for the Switch, which seems like it's a Smash Brothers clone, if I was to guess. I'm not going to show this because it's a Nintendo video, but I assume Kirby Fighters is basically a Smash Brothers clone with none of the other Smash Brothers characters, which seems kind of like a ridiculous attempt to resell the same content twice. Yeah, I couldn't really imagine a reason why you would want to play Kirby Fighters 2 and not just the most recent Smash Brothers, which has Kirby in it. Well, this image is not loading, but Among Us 2 has been cancelled for more Among Us 1. Basically, they cancelled the sequel to say they would just put those features in the first game. And yeah, again, I will say I'm just don't think Among Us 1 is going to be fun for people that can't get a group of 10 friends together. And Among Us definitely feels like one of those games that will be overhyped and overpopularized by YouTube streamers and Twitch streamers, and the real world gamers that have only maybe 3 or 4 people that they can play with are going to be very disappointed when you have a random group of people you don't know that you're either having to talk to through Discord. I kind of would like to do a little bit more research on Among Us and see how it's integrating Discord, or if it's not integrating Discord and the streamers are just doing that, because it definitely seems like there's a system there where it's very intentionally programming it so that only the people that are still alive can talk to each other on Discord and everybody else is muted. Meanwhile, we have a job listing for Sony PlayStation as the lead FX artist in Bend, Oregon, which I'm still not really sure why they are listing jobs in Bend, Oregon. It seems like they might be moving offices and they haven't announced it yet. And yeah, getting out of California might be a good idea for any business. Gamatsu has Undead Darlings, No Cure for Love, launching September 28th for the PS4, Switch, and PC. This looks to me like a zombie-themed game of some sort. It's tagged as an RPG, so yeah, it looks like it's probably going to be an anime RPG of some sort where you have a collection of anime girls, although this might be an anime guy, and they might be zombies. There was a anime, yeah, these are all zombies. Yeah, these characters are zombies. There was a anime around that idea where a bunch of undead zombie girls were brought back to life and turned into a J-pop crew dancing and singing. TechRaptor has an article. There will be no free Spider-Man PS5 upgrade, confirms according to Sony themselves. Although I've heard that there's still some confusion around the naming. So there's current owners of Control can't get the upgrade without buying the Ultimate Edition, but I feel like, let's see, here's the quote here. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered is the enhanced version of Marvel's Spider-Man and is included as part of Marvel Spider-Man's Miles Morales Ultimate Edition for the PlayStation 5. In addition, players who purchase Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS4 can upgrade at no cost to the PS5 version of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales and can take advantage of a paid upgrade to download Marvel Spider-Man Remastered. So if you buy the PS4 version of Miles Morales, but not Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, you can then upgrade for free to the PS5 version of Miles Morales and then pay money to get Spider-Man Remastered, which Spider-Man Remastered would have been free in the Ultimate Edition anyways, which means there's no there's no free upgrade in at all. This is incredibly confusing to the way that's phrased, the way that's labeled. You would only do that to intentionally confuse people and irritate people. And I don't really get Sony PlayStation's move here. Is perhaps it just doesn't matter, and they've done the numbers and they've realized it doesn't matter, and they can just piss off a lot of the PlayStation player fan base and screw people out of money. But it doesn't seem like Sony is being generous, and a lack of a generous appearance, I would have thought, would have hurt the potential loyalty that you might try to build as far as your PlayStation fan base. But on the other hand, I guess video game players have a short memory. Otherwise, there would be people screaming, don't buy the Xbox Series X or Series S, because they're going to try to activate always online DRM, which they effectively are doing that anyways, but people have kind of gotten over it and forgotten about it. Moving on, we have TechRaptor. Here's an updated article. Doom Eternal Xbox Game Pass will launch this October. Okay. Which, that really doesn't seem like much time has passed since Doom Eternal came out for them to now be giving it away for free, or as part of the Games Pass. Gamatsu has a PS4 launch for Bless Unleashed on October 22nd. This is a game I have not heard about at all. It seems like it's maybe an MMORPG, which is weird. Let's see. We have another Paper Shakespeare game listed. We get these every couple months, kind of low effort visual novels with asset flipped characters that may have been originally drawn by the Shakespearean game development company, but all they seem to do is use the public domain dialogue of Shakespeare's stories as the backbone of their cheap visual novels, and often the art looks furry inspired, although in this case they didn't go that way. Well, they have two series. They have a furry Shakespeare and paper Shakespeare. I don't think any of these games were ever reviewed particularly well, so there's probably not a good justification for so many of these being on Steam. 21 games they've listed now, but I could also see that being a fairly difficult thing to argue as far as something that you should block from Steam, because they are making a product. It's just not something that I personally think is high enough quality. It's not a troll game so much. It's at best I would call it a 50% troll game at most. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle, and let's see if we have any new bundles to mention. There's a bundle here for CI games, which if you pay $1 you'll get Art of Murder. These games I don't think are particularly good, but they also because I think they're kind of like, I don't know if they're visual novel so much as they're kind of hidden object games. They're cheap adventure games, but maybe if you got a good bundle here it might make sense. If you go over the average of $6.92 you get Lords of the Fallen and Sniper 3 Ghost Warrior. I don't think I'd be interested in that. See, and the problem with this is you're only getting Art of Murder, Cards of Destiny, and that would be the thing that I'd be interested in, is the Chronicles of Mystery and the Art of Murder series, and you wouldn't even get a complete bundle there because there's more of those games. I'm fairly certain more than just those three. Do we have any other bundle? No. And then that'll bring us back to my Twitter feed. We'll see if there's any other news. There is still a there's still a lot of games that I didn't cover, and I'll just kind of curate that. Apparently Techland's got a special award from Rollclaw, WROCLAW, which apparently is a region that Techland's business offices are set in. That sounds like a old English county name. A new Yakuza title is going to be announced on September 27th, according to Sega. Of course, now there's an update I'm reading that says maybe he was mistaken. And then there was another update 2 hours ago saying, nope, there won't be a new Yakuza title announced. Interesting. See if there's any other announcements. PS5 launch game list is Assassin's Creed Valhalla and NBA 2021. I think those would have been easy to guess. Those would have been PlayStation 5 launch games. That was a Gamma Sutra article. Apparently Samuel L. Jackson will play Nick Fury in the new Marvel Disney Plus series according to Variety. I don't think that's video game related, but I'm a little surprised that Nick Fury would be willing to be in a TV series, because I just don't actually think he has the acting chops to play any character consistently for a long time. And that's, I think, a big reason why you see Nick Fury Jr. as a character not really play anywhere as big of a role as he might have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Interesting. Is it interesting YouTube video that's being promoted? Somebody deleted all their tags on one of their highest performing videos. Because that's always been the question. YouTube has actively said that the tags should be accurate, but they are barely used at all. And it's always been my belief that they probably do use the tags a lot more than they let on. TechRaptor has an article here. Among Us console port is probably a long way off for people interested in that. Borderlands 3 is giving out more codes for Borderlands pre-sequel gold keys. Which we aren't too far away from some point when they'll put out codes for some kind of Thanksgiving skins. Probably the same Thanksgiving skins that they've done several years in a row, but they'll do it again in case you haven't gotten them. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Nintendo eShop sales driven by discounts and Metacritic, a publisher says. Which, yeah, I could definitely believe that it is a race to the bottom of what is the cheapest game that you can get on the eShop, and what is the race to the top of what is the best quality game you can get on the eShop. Panzer Dragoon Remake is now on Steam. I'll put that on the follow list and just mention that. TechRaptor put out an article, A Defense of Super Mario Sunshine. Honestly, I don't really have any hate in my heart for Super Mario Sunshine. I haven't played it in a long time, so if I were to go back and play it now, I probably would have a fine enough experience with it, and then I would just be done with it and forget it for another 10 to 15 years. There's seemingly too many people that want to go back and revisit it and talk about how bad it is, and that's just kind of pointless. It's not like they shoved it in your face and made you play Sunshine, and then they came out with a sequel, and it's just been Mario Sunshine ever since the first game came out. Nintendo saw that there wasn't as positive of a reaction as they would have liked, and they adjusted to Galaxy. And it's a decent argument to make that we wouldn't have made it to Galaxy if they hadn't responded and made Sunshine in the first place. Okay, well, this is where I want to wrap up this stream. We've been going 3 hours and 13 minutes. So, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.